And just like everyone else, it's not that I always want to make everything about race, but my race is not an option. So back in June, when the whole Black Lives Matter debacle of 2020 was happening, I put up a little tweet that got a little bit of traction.
Twitch should give us the opportunity to do this more often, and Black faces need to be more normalized throughout this website and throughout this gaming culture and the streaming culture period, so that when we do see Black people, it's not made to be a joke or a meme or emote spam in chat, because you'll be so used to it. It's like, what the f can you even say anymore? It's nothing to say.
It was basically a recap of a podcast I listened to that featured X Mira and like a bunch of other Black gamers on Twitch talking about their experiences being Black in the world and also being Black in the gaming industry. And I think it helped spark a conversation about what it means to be Black in the online gaming space. So I wanted to talk about that today. I originally wanted to make this video like back when I actually tweeted that. It's later now, it's October, but it's okay. So for those of you who don't know, this is my brand new gaming channel. So I've been on the YouTube gaming platform since 2013. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with me or my content, that channel went through a lot of different phases of games and then also, I guess, phases of life for me personally. So when I first started my channel, I was about 11 or 12 years old. I originally created Club Penguin and Minecraft videos, particularly speaking on the Minecraft community, because that's what I watched a lot growing up. I didn't see very many Minecraft creators that looked like me. And it's not that they don't exist. I think that's a theme that we're going to see a lot in this video. It's not that Black creators and Black people don't exist in this space, but it's the fact that people aren't looking for us unless Black Lives Matter is trending or unless, you know, we're a trending topic. Something that's always bothered me is the fact that sort of Black creators have always been like an afterthought, and it's almost like you have to go out of your way, or it is like you have to go out of your way to find them. And that's kind of like what I ended up having to do later in life. I remember watching entire like Let's Plays, entire survival like SMP servers, survival multiplayer, that were literally all white. And it was like 12 plus people. How are you able to get 12 plus creators on one server, all of them basically homogenous, like could be siblings? It's crazy to think about. Like maybe there was one person of color, they weren't a Black person of color. And there's something I want to emphasize is also, I'm going to be particularly talking from my experience as a Black woman, as a Black person, because quite honestly, when you have Black skin, your experiences are just different from other people of color. So it's not that there aren't issues with other people of color, but just for the sake of this video, I'm talking about my experience as a Black person in the world. But just thinking back to situations like that, where like when I was a kid, even like the creators I looked up to, none of them looked like me. None of them came from my background and my experience. I couldn't really see myself in any of them until I went out of my way to go look for those creators. I didn't realize how much that had an impact on me until I got later in life, like into my teen years. But I couldn't help but notice how race played into my life as a young person on this platform. I remember some of my early videos. I did some vlogs. For the most part, I did gaming videos, but sometimes I did vlogs where I just kind of showed, I don't know, behind the scenes of making a video, or I did like a cooking video once, and this is before I did my face reveal. And I remember not wanting to show my hands because if people saw that I was Black, I felt like they would have an idea of what I would look like. Looking back, even creators who didn't do face reveals on their channel, even when they did vlogs, it wasn't like they hid their complexion. Like white people don't have to think about hiding their skin color because the world allows white people to be complex. And I think back about that now, and it's like, that is so messed up. Like, where do you learn that from? Where if somebody knows my complexion, there's going to be some sort of assumption or some sort of new view about me. I really feel like there's some underlying things there. And it's just how we've been raised in a culture that sees Black skin and thinks certain things. So that's something I thought was interesting. That's just kind of how race, I've noticed, played into my childhood sort of then, not wanting to show my complexion, and then also just not seeing, Black creators that played the games that I liked doing things that I did. Just even like watching these servers where it's like literally every person, maybe except for a couple people on this server, were white. And it's just the fact that white people don't even have to think about that. White people never really have to think about, will I see myself today? I'm gonna move into like the second sort of phase of my previous gaming channel, and that's when I started discovering The Sims. So I think I discovered The Sims, I feel like I get these years confused, but my guess is like 2014, maybe a little bit earlier, 2013, 2014. So I was about 12, 13 years old, closer to 13 at this point, and I discovered Sims YouTube. The Sims 4 had not come out yet, so I'm just gonna clarify that. This was still like kind of the Sims 3 era. So for that sort of phase of my YouTube, not only didn't really see Black creators, but I never really saw Black Sims, or just really any Sims of color, to be honest. Everybody would have these Let's Plays with just these all white Sims, and very skinny, blonde, main character Sim was always the protagonist. And in those series, I never saw myself reflected. And I actually remember once, again, I was still young. I was still like, 13 is still like young, and you're still, learning and developing. I definitely wasn't thinking about race at 13 like I am now. Even then, I remember like when I made my own Sims, a lot of the times my Sims would be white. And I remember one of my parents asking me why my Sims were white. And not that anything is wrong with making white characters, but when you're not white, doing so can affect the way you view yourself. Because I think they just expected me to create Sims sort of like in your own image. Growing up, I remember, this is kind of going all over the place, but I'm just kind of talking. But growing up, like, I remember my dad and my parents used to make it a conscious effort to make sure my dolls and my toys were Black and were different colors in my home. It's not that I didn't see people that looked like me. A lot of the artwork in my house is, African art, Black art. So it's not like I didn't see people who looked like me, at least in the house. But when I went out into the world is when I stopped seeing people that looked like me, because I live in a pretty much majority white neighborhood. I went to a majority white school. All the people I saw on TV and all the creators I saw on YouTube, which became very quickly one of my favorite forms of entertainment, were all white, and I never saw people that just looked like me. Oh, and also another example from my Minecraft days. I remember, this is actually kind of combining into my Sims days. This is probably 2016, I'm guessing. If y'all remember the game Build Battle, it was a really popular mini game on the Hive, or on Hypixel. I remember like every Minecraft creator was uploading Build Battle videos like several times a week. Dan TDM was really big at that time. So I think this is like 2016, 2015 maybe. So this is like when I was just starting high school. And for brief context, basically Build Battle is a game where you're timed and there's a theme, and every person has to build something under that theme within that time limit using the Minecraft, creative menu. I remember just watching creators when they made people, they would always use the white clay as the skin color. It would always be like, okay, we're gonna get a skin color, and it's the first skin color they chose was white clay. And I remember thinking at that time, this is when I started, this is kind of when I first started thinking about race critically and sort of how it affects my life. But just realizing like the fact that when you think skin color, the first thing you think of is white skin. It just shows how your view of the world and my view of the world are so different. Like when I think skin color, let's build something in my skin color. My skin is not white. No, like that's not what I first reach for. And I remember, going into my Build Battle game, whenever I was trying to build something that was related to people, I would try to use like a brown clay as the skin. And other times I would reach for, the white clay to build a person. And just thinking like, these creators have no idea, like, because white is always seen as the default, when you are seen as the default, it doesn't just affect you, you know, it affects how your viewers, I guess, also view themselves. The fact that I was, even when I first started playing The Sims and I was making white Sims, unless I was making, you know, myself, like if I was just making a fictional character, they would always be white. And it's like, that is not an issue white people have to go through. White people never have to think about making black Sims, or never have to think about making somebody who doesn't look like them, or they never have to worry about not seeing themselves, because there's so many examples of who they are and who they could be. When white people are overrepresented, the internalized imagery for everybody is that white is the standard, making everybody else's experiences secondary. And that's just simply not true. I really think just this whole issue of me growing up black on YouTube gaming is just really, it comes down to never seeing myself reflected, never seeing myself represented in the creators I looked up to. And representation is so important. I will link some resources below. I'll probably also insert some clips of just by why representation matters.
Now, I believe representation is vital because it provides the opportunity for your existence to be acknowledged in this world.
This is what white people get to feel all the time. Since the beginning of cinema, you get to feel empowered like this and represented.
That imagery is powerful. Because a lot of the people who watch those movies don't even come into contact with diverse people, so their image of these people is defined by Hollywood.
We should have images that reflect the real world. It's really simple.
Until society represents everyone, the questions will always be, where do I belong? Do I belong?
But again, you know, that's privilege in itself, not to have to think about why representation matters, because when you're seen as the default, representation maybe doesn't matter as much to you because you have so many examples of who you can be and what people you can look up to and who you can see yourself reflected in. So for me growing up, a lot of who I saw myself reflected in, at least in the gaming space, were just women. I would often see myself and try to validify my love for gaming through women. And I used to validify my place in gaming YouTube by being female. Until I saw the importance of the intersectionality of me being black and being a woman. I think now I want to talk about when I started to realize that seeing yourself does actually matter. And again, this is when I was in high school. So I started watching YouTube videos like maybe end of elementary and then mainly throughout middle school. In high school is when I mainly started consuming Sims content and creating Sims content of my own. Once again, not seeing people use black Sims in their Let's Plays, or if they do use black Sims, it's usually like the sidekick who doesn't really have meaningful character development, that doesn't actually really contribute to the plot. The black character is always just kind of the side person. And you can see that a lot in not just gaming, but on TV and in movies too. The black person's kind of just like the side thing because, you know, diversity. PSA, I don't want to be your afterthought. Or if I see a black character, they're usually like embedding a stereotype, like they're just athletic or they're just the cool, you know, the cool black guy that everyone wants to be around. Black is kind of synonymous a lot of the times with cool. That's why the world wants to look like us, talk like us, act like us. But then when we do it, we're the ones that are ghetto. When I made my very first Let's Play, when I got my new computer, I remember making the characters black and having a black family, you know, showing black love. You know, a lot of times when you see, again, the black person, and even in Let's Plays, it's like with the white person that is equally important. And that's also a trope, the white savior trope that's been used in media and TV and film for so long to make kind of our stories be told from the perspective of white people. I'm gonna link resources to all the stuff I'm talking about below so you guys can become more educated if you don't already know these things. And I know like I'm kind of talking a lot about like Sims and like it may seem like it's not that big of a deal, like people are just playing their game, but it kind of is a big deal because imagery matters and representation matters. And the Sims and YouTube being one of the biggest forms and ways people consume entertainment nowadays, like YouTube and Twitch, especially young people, it's honestly becoming a lot of the ways we see our storytelling. And I'm tired of seeing just like the black person being the sidekick. We see enough of that in Hollywood and in TV. I'm tired of seeing the black person being the stereotype, being the gangster, being just the cool guy, being the athlete. I'm tired of seeing black women being depicted as ghetto and always having an attitude. And yes, I've even seen these stereotypes in Sims Let's Plays. I'm tired of seeing black people put into boxes and black people our stories not being invested in and not being valued. And so whether that is in the form of gaming, which is entertainment nowadays, like it's one of the most popular forms of entertainment, you know, on the platform, YouTube gaming. It's a huge way that we see representation and a huge way we see imagery. I would love to see just more creators actually kind of simulating the stories that I connect with. And actually, I want to rephrase that. It's not these characters or these creators do exist. But it sucks that almost a lot of the times we are the afterthought, or we have to search as the black people and the people of color. When we want to see ourselves, we have to search. White people don't have to do that. And I think that's part of the problem, is that, it's almost like black people are the ones, you know, we don't create the issue, but we're the ones trying to fix it. We're the only people trying to fix it. That's the issue. Of course, not all white people are complacent in these issues, but this is and has been a pattern I've noticed for far too long. I think people also have to realize that just because you aren't an overt racist, we have to recognize that racism is systemic. And racial bias is something that we all have. And that does not make you a bad person to realize how you can do better with your content. There's always ways we can do better. So I just want to mention that. The Black Lives Matter energy should have existed prior to 2020. It's almost like we're the ones telling our stories and we're the only ones consuming our stories, which is kind of making YouTube segregated, where it's almost like, if you want to see black Sims, white Simmers are not very often going to show you in a very nuanced or full way. So it's almost like, okay, well, if you want to see yourself, you have to make yourself and make your Let's Plays for just the black people to finally see themselves. And it shouldn't be like that. YouTube just really shouldn't be like segregated. Like the black people are over here making the black Sims, and then the white people are over here making all the white Sims, making maybe those two black characters in their Let's Plays, and now it's diverse. But having us be the main characters, seeing us also making black characters, not just like white people with face paint. You know, I want my Negro nose with my Jackson 5 nostrils, word to Beyonce. I want my hair represented accurately. And that's a whole nother issue I can talk about in another time. It's going to take more work than making, you know, straight strands of hair. And I don't know anything about game development, but I don't even know necessarily more work is the right word, but it takes time to actually think about how to make a good texture of black hair. Like, you actually have to go out of your way to do that. But I think it's important, because to be able to create myself, why do I have to download custom content just to find hair that looks like mine? And my hair's in a bun right now, but I have big curly hair, and I'm proud of my big curly hair. I like my kinks and my curls, and my curly hair is not the only texture of curly hair, though. That's another important thing to note. Like, our hair comes in so many textures and styles. I would love to see cornrows and box braids, not as custom content, but in the game. Because that's, you know, if The Sims is supposed to celebrate life and simulate life, I would love to see life in The Sims and create a sim, and not us always being an afterthought, or like, because us black people realize we don't see ourselves in the game, we have to go fix it. You know, like Asmara making the melanin pack, which the skin tones in The Sims 4 still haven't been fixed. And, you know, now people are kind of just now realizing or talking more about it, just because now white simmers are talking about it. But I really like what Lil Simsy said in her video kind of about the diversity.
I don't know if you knew, but in The Sims 4, they've got a full-on paint mode with a color wheel. You can paint a smiley face on your dog if you want to. They've got opacity sliders. The dogs have more options for skin tone than The Sims. It shouldn't be a luxury to be able to accurately have diverse Sims in the game. Listen to black people when they're talking about these problems, amplify their voices. The fact that black people have been complaining about this for years and there has been no change, that's terrible.
And also, I like how she said it shouldn't have taken a bunch of white people finally talking about the diversity issue for things to actually be changed, and for the Sims community and the Sims team to actually realize that this is an issue, because black simmers, black creators have been talking about this since day one. So those are just some of my experiences growing up on this platform as a young black woman, kind of just coming into her own. realizing, you know, I was a girl, I was a kid when I first started YouTube. I just was trying to watch games that I liked and play games, but again, like being a black person, I don't have the option really to not think about race.
So one of the major experiences of being a black person is that even if you do not choose to engage in the conversations around how black people are treated, at some point you will be treated like a black person.
And just like everyone else, it's not that I always want to make everything about race, but my race is not an option. So it's going to affect me and the way I navigate through the world. As a creator, you play a real big role in representation and for your community. And I don't know, white creators not thinking about their black community, I feel like is privilege in itself. And it's honestly hurtful to feel like you're not seen in a community you love. And so even with my previous gaming channel, I tried to be intentional about showing black Sims, about showing black Sims with curly hair and diverse hair. But it's even me as a teenager, as like a 16-year-old, 15, 16-year-old realizing how important diversity and representation is. Even 14. At 14, I was making creative Sims for Black History Month. I had a Hidden Figures LP for a little bit to show prominent black women in history. In my first ever Sims 3 Let's Play, I created a black family where the man was not an athlete, he was a businessman. Putting black Sims on my thumbnails that even didn't necessarily have to do with, you know, the video in general. Using black characters in my current households. Yeah, just telling black stories. Quite honestly, trying to make black people be seen and heard. And I just realized how that was so important to me, and that was almost like common sense to me at like 15, 16. But there are grown people who still don't get this. So I was not perfect as a teenager in representation. There are some things I definitely wish I would have done better. But the fact that I acknowledged it, I even acknowledged that showing black people was important, is kind of getting to the right space. Again, I'm going to link different resources below, and we just need to do better, y'all. It's hard to acknowledge privilege that you know you didn't have to work for. We all have privilege, but I think the more privileges we do have, we have to be more intentional thinking about other people that aren't as privileged as us and creating space for them. And so this whole Black Lives Matter thing, I want the energy to continue. I'm more concerned about how you view Black lives in your actions, how you run your channel, what channels you follow, what channels you raid, how you decide to elevate your privilege. So again, the closer you are to the standard, the less you have to think about everybody else behind you. But it would be irresponsible to do that. So if you're really committed to the cause, I really care about how you represent people afterwards, how you think about Black people after 2020. That is what I'm most concerned about, because again, my race is not an option. You know, if you enjoyed this video, please share it. I just want to make this a normal thing to realize how race also plays into the gaming industry.
Imagine a world where you could teach a child the value of all races, and all races would be sworn in with equal importance. Our children would grow with a sense of value, connection, and understanding of difference.
And yeah, welcome to my channel. I need to figure out an outro and stuff. So on this channel, I plan to talk all about gaming and nerd culture. So I'm planning to make some more commentary videos like this one. I also want to make some videos more specific to particular games. And I also hope to make some more experimental vlog type videos. And hopefully I'll upload some gaming videos sort of in the future. I don't have a gaming PC right now, so the gameplay is not really gonna be a thing for right now. But if this sounds like a good time to you, feel free to subscribe. I'd love to have you along this journey. But yeah, welcome to my channel. Bye, you guys. So I'd love to hear your guys' experiences in the comments. If you're Black, let's have, you know, a conversation if you resonated with anything that I had to say, or if you have some other examples or experiences, please leave them in the comments below. Let's have a civil discussion and just bring awareness to this issue.